You won't hear this on the showroom floor, but Japanese motorcycle dealers are panicking. Hyped models are sitting unsold, prices are quietly crashing, and inventory is overflowing. This isn't about bad bikes, it's about misunderstood machines you can now grab dirt cheap if you know where to look. The lot they don't want you to see. Behind the glossy showroom glass and weekend promotions, there's a part of every dealership they hope you never wander into. It's quieter there, dustier too. Rows of motorcycles sit with their tags still hanging, some wrapped in protective plastic, untouched since delivery. These aren't demo models or customer orders, they're the unsold, the forgotten, and they're costing dealers a fortune. This so-called dead lot is no accident. It's the product of an industry trapped between aggressive production cycles and razor-thin margins. Manufacturers push out volume. Dealers accept it on credit, and every bike that doesn't sell fast enough becomes a liability. With each passing day, the interest on that unpaid inventory grows until desperation sets in. Floor plan financing, the lifeblood of most dealerships, is supposed to be a flexible tool. Dealers borrow against incoming inventory, hoping to sell each unit before the loan terms get ugly. The problem? Forecasting errors, outdated demand assumptions, and shifting buyer behavior have made that bet increasingly risky. One wrong model year, and a dealer could be saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, literally sitting on their lot. What makes this situation worse is how quickly it spirals. A few unsold models become price anchors, making it harder to sell anything at full value. Loyal customers start noticing the dust. They talk. And once that trust is broken, no amount of chrome polishing can fix it. The money pit behind every trade-in. Walk into a dealership with a clean trade-in and a good credit score, and you'll likely be offered a deal that feels almost too good to be true. That's not kindness, it's calculus. The real strategy lies in how dealerships manipulate your trade to cover their bigger losses. Let's say a customer trades in a used cruiser that's still in decent shape. The dealer offers top dollar, sometimes even above retail estimates. Why? Because they can use that inflated value to roll negative equity from the unsold new bikes into your financing package. You walk away thinking you got a steal. In reality, you're helping them cover their floor plan costs and bury losses on units they can't move. These tactics are getting bolder as manufacturers keep sending more inventory than dealers request. Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki have all been accused by insiders of inflating delivery numbers to boost reported sales figures. On paper. In the real world, that inventory has to go somewhere, and it lands on dealer lots whether there's demand or not. Look, we talked to real dealers, dug through finance records, and exposed tactics they hoped you'd never understand. Now you've got the leverage to walk in smarter than 90% of buyers. If this saved you time or cash, hit subscribe and let us know what dusty bikes you've spotted. One dealer in the Midwest revealed that he was forced to take 14 additional sport bikes in 2024 that he never ordered. None of them sold, not one. Now they sit in the back, behind tarps with battery tenders and fading price tags, while he makes monthly payments on all of them. The forecasting failure. No one will admit. Behind the showroom curtain, the failure to read the market is causing ripple effects that stretch far beyond local dealerships. Manufacturers rely on internal forecasting teams to predict trends. Adventure bikes are hot, cruisers are cooling, sport bikes are reviving. These predictions are supposed to help balance production. Instead, they've become a roulette wheel powered by outdated metrics and overly optimistic spreadsheets. Most forecasting models still rely on pre-pandemic buying cycles and seasonal assumptions. Yet the motorcycle market has shifted dramatically. Younger riders are leaning toward used bikes, retro builds, or low-cost electric alternatives. The old logic, pump out inventory in spring, clear it by fall, doesn't hold anymore. Despite this, factories keep churning out models based on last year's guesses. Dealers are then pressured to accept those models regardless of how their local market behaves. A Florida dealership might be flooded with adventure bikes better suited to the Pacific Northwest. A rural Texas store might receive dozens of low-displacement scooters better fit for urban downtowns. These mismatches aren't just inefficient, they're expensive. What's worse is how few manufacturers are willing to acknowledge this breakdown. Instead of adjusting output or offering tailored inventory, they blame dealers for poor marketing or weak closing skills. The result? Dealers are left holding the bag, with showrooms full of bikes no one asked for and no plan to offload them. The hidden rot in special editions. If there's one trick manufacturers love to play, it's the limited run gimmick. Special edition motorcycles motorcycles with exclusive paint jobs, badges, and trim packages flood the market every few months, pitched as collector's items. In theory, they're supposed to generate hype and move units quickly. In practice, they often do the exact opposite. The problem is saturation. When every quarter brings another exclusive, the appeal wears off. Buyers catch on. That Gold Flake Cruiser or Blackout Touring model might look special, but once it sits unsold for a full calendar year, it becomes radioactive. No one wants a limited edition bike that didn't sell when it was hot. Worse still, these models often come with a price premium that's difficult to justify beyond aesthetics. A standard model with the same powertrain and features might be $4,000 cheaper. Dealers know this, but they're contractually obligated to accept a quota of these editions, so they hide them in the corner, offer desperate rebates, bundle them into shady financing schemes, and hope someone walks in looking for a deal they can talk themselves into. Buyers who recognize the game are learning to wait. They know these specials lose resale value faster than regular models. They know the markup is mostly cosmetic, and they're using that knowledge to push prices lower. In the process, even the legitimate special editions lose credibility, poisoning the entire well. As the marketing hype machine churns, it's becoming harder for dealers to separate gimmicks from genuine innovations. And in a landscape where trust is already on shaky ground, that confusion only accelerates the collapse. The showroom illusion. When you walk into a motorcycle dealership, what you see is only half the story. Rows of gleaming bikes, polished chrome, upbeat music. It's all designed to sell you a dream. What you don't see are the unsold models stuffed in the warehouse out back, the unpaid loans piling up in the accounting office, or the frantic calls between sales managers and manufacturers begging for more time. This illusion is maintained by something called floor planning, a financing strategy that lets dealers stock their showrooms without paying for bikes up front. On paper, it sounds brilliant. A manufacturer ships bikes to a dealer, the dealer displays them, and once one is sold, they pay off the financing. Everyone wins if the bikes actually sell. If they don't, interest charges build month by month, and the showroom becomes a trap instead of a stage. That's when the illusion cracks. Promotional pricing, fake scarcity, and inflated trade-in values start showing up. Suddenly, you're being offered 0 down and 1.9% interest on a bike that's already overstocked. Those perks aren't kindness, they're red flags. A dealership under pressure will do whatever it takes to keep the lights on, even if it means giving away a bike at cost just to clear the debt. The manufacturer's quiet bully tactics. Dealers don't get to choose every model that shows up on their lot. That's the dirty secret behind brand agreements. When you sign on to be a franchise dealer for a major motorcycle company, you're not just getting bikes, you're getting quotas, package bundles, and penalties for saying no. Let's say a dealer knows that the midsize naked bike segment has slowed down in their region. They request fewer of those models and more cruisers. Instead of flexibility, they're told to take what they're given or risk losing future allocations, bonuses, or marketing support. It's a hardball tactic masked as partnership. One dealer in Southern California reported being forced to accept 20 heritage-style motorcycles in 2023. Only 3 sold. By the time the next shipment arrived, the remaining 17 were worth less than wholesale pricing due to depreciation. He took a loss on every single one just to avoid losing his status with the brand. It's an unspoken power dynamic that puts small and mid-sized dealerships at a massive disadvantage. The bigger the manufacturer, the harder it leans on its network. The result? A lot full of the wrong bikes sitting under the hot sun while interest charges quietly erode the dealer's bottom line. The sales team knows. They just can't say it. Every salesperson on that showroom floor knows which bikes are duds. They know which models haven't moved in 6 months. They know the difference between a hot seller and a slow death. But they won't tell you, not because they're dishonest, but because they can't. Dealerships train their teams to stay on message, meaning if a certain bike isn't moving, they're instructed to highlight features, offer package deals, and shift the conversation away from value toward emotion. One former sales lead confessed that they were told to always upsell a certain touring model, no matter what the customer came in asking for, because the dealership had over $40,000 tied up in unsold inventory of that one bike. Sometimes the pressure gets personal. Bonuses are tied to moving specific units. Staff members who can't sell the problem bikes may lose commission or even hours. That's why a salesperson might seem overly enthusiastic about a bike you've never heard of. It's not about what's best for you. It's about clearing inventory before the next audit. To protect yourself, savvy buyers are starting to ask for unsold inventory reports, leftover model year discounts, or even straight-up floor plan payoff quotes. Dealers hate this, but they know the game is up when you start speaking their language. Why the leftovers aren't always a bargain. You'd think that a motorcycle sitting unsold for 12 or 18 months would be ripe for a deal. Sometimes it is, but more often it's not. The longer a bike sits, the more costs it accumulates. Battery replacements, tire degradation, even cosmetic damage from sun exposure or showroom scuffs start to eat into margins. And when a dealer does finally discount the price, it's rarely as dramatic as the situation would warrant. There's also the problem of perception. A bike that sat unsold for a year immediately raises red flags for buyers. Why didn't it sell? Is it unreliable, underpowered, overpriced? That doubt makes every pitch harder, and it makes customers more aggressive in negotiations. Dealers know this. That's why they often avoid listing these bikes online or keep them out of plain sight. Worse, leftover models are often missing key updates that were introduced in newer releases. A 2023 version of a popular sport bike might lack upgraded electronics, revised suspension, or even safety features now standard across the line. So even if the price tag is tempting, the value can be significantly lower than it first appears. Instead of promoting these models as discounted treasures, many dealers quietly use them as bargaining chips. "We'll give you $2,000 off this if you finance through us," they'll say. That $2,000 isn't generosity, it's a salvage operation. When inventory becomes an anchor. At first glance, a dealership full of motorcycles seems like a sign of success. More selection, more customer options, more chances to close a sale, right? In reality, that inventory can turn into an anchor. When too many units sit idle for too long, the financial burden begins to weigh down the entire operation. And behind every unsold bike is a series of decisions, contracts, and miscalculations that brought it there. The anchor effect begins with over-ordering. Sometimes it is fueled by optimism. Other times it is forced by the manufacturer. Either way, the bikes arrive and the dealer takes possession, which means taking on the debt. From there, it is a race against time. Floor plan interest charges begin accumulating immediately. The longer a bike remains unsold, the more it costs to keep on the lot. Dealers often respond to this pressure with rotating markups and markdowns, hoping to strike a balance between perceived value and urgency. They'll raise the price slightly one week to test interest, then drop it the next with a flash sale or inventory blowout banner. The result is a confused market and buyers who no longer trust the listed price. Customers wait, hesitate, or walk away entirely. This paralysis adds another layer of pain. Now, not only is the dealer paying interest on unsold bikes, but they are also losing future sales to competitors with cleaner, more stable pricing. The anchor drags deeper, and unless something changes, those bikes stay parked, unloved, and unpaid for. The hidden cost of dealer loyalty. It may sound strange, but loyalty to a manufacturer can hurt a dealership more than help it. Dealers often earn incentives, marketing support, and bonus cash by sticking with a specific brand or meeting performance targets. On paper, this creates alignment between the dealership and the manufacturer. In practice, it can lead to disaster. A dealer who pushes a slow-selling model simply to hit a quota might lose repeat customers who feel misled or underserved. A dealership that refuses to carry more competitive third-party accessories because the brand demands exclusivity might miss out on lucrative upsells. And those that toe the line too closely risk becoming hostages to outdated product lines or corporate policies that no longer serve the local market. One Midwest dealership shared their experience of sticking with a particular sport motorcycle that was being heavily discounted online by larger urban dealers. They were told by the manufacturer not to match those online prices to protect brand equity. They listened and lost over 30 potential buyers in one summer alone, all of whom simply drove to another city to save the money. Loyalty in this business is complicated. The best dealers learn to walk a tightrope, staying in the good graces of the brand without becoming its its unpaid enforcer. The worst? They wind up with a back room full of unsold bikes and no negotiating power. How model year turnover triggers a crisis. Every motorcycle has a shelf life, not in terms of performance or durability, but in perception. Once a new model year is released, even if the changes are minor, the previous year's bikes become harder to sell. Customers start asking questions. Is this one outdated? Will it hold value? Should I wait for the new one? Dealers know this moment is coming every year, yet many are still caught off guard. A poor forecast, an overly optimistic sales projection, or a shipment delay can leave a dealer stuck with a large volume of older models just as the new ones hit the market. Suddenly, bikes that were supposed to be the star of the summer become end-of-season liabilities. To move them, dealers will launch aggressive campaigns, last chance savings, model year clearance, and blowout pricing. But those only work if the bikes are desirable to begin with. If the model was already struggling to sell, even heavy discounts may not be enough. And now there's a bigger problem. Every week that passes makes those units harder to finance, harder to trade in, and harder to justify keeping on the floor. This creates a dangerous cycle. As old models sit, dealers lose the space and the cash flow to bring in the newest releases. They fall behind, the lot starts to look stale, and customers notice. Few things tank dealership credibility faster than dust-covered bikes from 2 model years ago still occupying prime showroom space. Dealership survival tactics that buyers should know. When dealerships are drowning in unsold inventory, they don't wave a white flag. They get creative, and if you're not paying attention, you could be their next target. One trick? Bundling. That free gear or lifetime maintenance might seem generous, but it's usually a smokescreen. The real goal is to disguise a bike that just won't sell on its own. You're not getting a deal, you're getting a decoy. Then there's the salesperson rotation tactic. Notice someone circling back to the same model over and over, even after you've passed? That's no coincidence. They've been briefed, rehearsed, and told to offload that specific bike by any means necessary. Financing is another minefield. Dealers working with lenders often push bikes that are depreciating fast. Low monthly payments are bait, hidden fees, inflated interest, or forced add-ons are the trap. Even service departments get in on it, offering priority maintenance or VIP perks tied to slow movers. But those perks are already priced in. These aren't scams, they're dealership survival tactics. Learn them, spot them, and you'll never get played. Outsourcing, automation, and the end of the dealership. The American motorcycle dealership wasn't always about spreadsheets, floor plan financing, and retail desperation. It used to be a community hub, part rent shop, part hangout, part launch pad for someone's first ride into freedom. Now, it feels more like a clearance warehouse. And that's not just a vibe, it's the new business model. The cause? A lethal cocktail of outsourcing, automation, and corporate indifference. Let's start with outsourcing. Many of the new motorcycles sitting unsold in dealership showrooms are victims of global production shifts. Japanese manufacturers have quietly moved large portions of their assembly to countries with cheaper labor: Indonesia, Thailand, India, and even parts of South America. On paper, this improves margins. In practice, it wrecks consistency. Motorcycles that once had a reputation for flawless quality control are now suffering from minor but infuriating fit and finish issues. Welds aren't as smooth, panels don't always align, and in markets like the United States where riders expect Japanese precision, those little things matter. They shatter brand loyalty, especially when a buyer is staring down a 5-figure price tag. Then there's automation. Japanese brands have invested billions into robotic manufacturing to reduce costs. Kawasaki, Yamaha, and Honda all boast ultra-modern production lines filled with sensor-laden arms and AI-driven inspection systems. That sounds impressive until those machines misread tolerances or fail to detect subtle mechanical flaws. What's worse, dealers can't fix these mistakes in-house because they lack the diagnostic access. Everything is locked behind proprietary systems, which leads to back orders, delays, and customer walkouts. As a result, the traditional dealership is being squeezed from all sides. They are now saddled with inventory that's harder to sell, harder to maintain, and harder to explain to skeptical customers, especially the older riders who still remember what Japanese reliability used to mean. The rise of manufacturer direct sales. Dealerships once had leverage because they were the gateway to ownership. No dealer meant no sale, but that dynamic is changing fast. Direct-to-consumer sales models pioneered by electric brands and now adopted by traditional manufacturers are rewriting the rules. Honda and Yamaha have quietly rolled out pilot programs where riders can configure and order bikes online, bypassing the dealer entirely. The dealer still technically delivers the product, but they become little more than a glorified delivery service, stripped of the sale, stripped of the upsell, and stripped of the commission. Their revenue dries up, their leverage disappears, and their incentives shift from enthusiasm to survival. What happens when a business knows it's dying? It panics, and panicked dealerships start playing dirty. That's why you're seeing aggressive markups, fake shortages, warranty exclusions, and deceptive mandatory add-ons bundled into sales contracts. These aren't mistakes, they're symptoms. The traditional motorcycle dealer knows they're being phased out. They're trying to squeeze the last drops from a model that's already collapsing. And customers, they feel it. Trust is eroding. Buyers who once relied on the expertise and passion of local dealers now walk in with dread, expecting to be hustled. The irony? In trying to survive, dealers are accelerating their own downfall. Used bikes and the second-hand rebellion, nowhere is the shift more visible than in the booming used motorcycle market. Platforms like Cycle Trader, Facebook Marketplace, and Revzilla's Recycle have turned private sellers into competitors overnight. For many riders, it's no longer worth it to buy new, especially not when you can get a 2-year-old model with 500 miles for half the price and none of the nonsense. Used bikes don't require destination charges, assembly fees, or finance department headaches. They're cleaner transactions and they put power back in the buyer's hands. What's more, Japanese motorcycles, once valued for their durability, are perfect for this new ecosystem. They rarely break even with age, so why buy new? The result? Dealers are stuck holding the bag. Their new inventory looks bloated, overpriced, and unnecessary. And unless a buyer is after the absolute newest features, there's little incentive to pay the premium, especially when you can get nearly the same machine for far less. Manufacturers know this too, which is why some, like Suzuki and CF Moto, have started flooding the market with steep discounts and loyalty programs just to get new bikes moving. It's not about profits anymore, it's about clearing out the glut. That's when you know a market is turning inside out. The new motorcycle economy and what comes next. Everything is pointing to a fundamental reset. Motorcycles are not going away, but the way they're bought, sold, and valued is undergoing a dramatic transformation. Japanese brands that once defined the global standard for affordability and reliability are now facing backlash from the very customers that made them successful. Meanwhile, upstart brands from China, Taiwan, and India are stepping in with lower prices, sleeker tech, and better dealer incentives. It's no longer about loyalty, it's about leverage. Riders now have more options, more information, and more skepticism than ever before. They're not just looking at price tags, they're watching how brands behave, how dealers treat them, and how bikes perform in the real world. The result? A motorcycle economy that feels like it's fracturing. On one side, there's the old model, Japanese dominance, physical dealerships, legacy production systems. On the other side, a chaotic but promising future of modular bikes, subscription-based ownership, community-built reviews, and direct-to-door delivery. This is no longer about which bike wins on paper. It's about which brand adapts fastest to a market that's decided the old ways just aren't cutting it anymore. As we close this deep dive into the truth about motorcycles dealers can't sell, remember one thing: this isn't just a list of unsold models. It's a map of an industry in flux. And if you pay attention, you can ride the changes to your advantage. Which of these forgotten motorcycles have you seen collecting dust at your local dealer, and which would you still ride home?